Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome back to another installment of Game Over Calgary. My name is Matt DeMille, and I'm the host for tonight's show. Just want to thank everybody for jumping on as usual, coming to chat with me following another muted my mic. Following another Flames game during the 2024-25 regular season. I think the best way I can describe what we saw tonight is with the, old but still great phrase with, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." I think a phrase like that is really just the epitome of how tonight's game went. For a team that, like Calgary, has kind of been in that wild card playoff hunt for most of the season, if not, still are. They're 1 point out of it as we speak. Playing the 31st team or the second worst team in the league, however you wanna say it, that's kind of a game that a team hunting for a wild card spot needs to pull a full 2 points from. And again, the Flames, obviously, as we're having this conversation right now, weren't able to do that. And I think that's why I'm saying I'm not angry. I think it'd be better if I was angry so I can kind of yell at the team, kind of move on. But this is more of a disappointment for, again, the people that are hoping the Flames can punch their ticket in the playoffs at the end of the season. It's more of a disappointment that's going to sit here and just resonate with the fan bases. Obviously, as I said, when you head into games like this, these are the games that a contending team, a wild card team, any team in the hunt for a playoff spot needs to be pulling games from. And I know the Predators aren't as bad as second worst, or on paper they aren't, but still they're struggling, and you got to take points from a struggling team. And as I said, didn't happen tonight. Conrad in the chat, of course, one of our three talented Game Over Calgary hosts, is in the chat, as I said. Kuzi into the sun, or CSKA Moscow. I completely agree. I'm not going to dive just into it because he has taken up a whole portion of tonight's show, because there's lots to talk about from his first start I think his last game he played was December 29th, but this is just the second time in the last 9 games that Kuzmenko has played, obviously being a healthy scratch for his rather poor performances as of late. And I think today was a real mixed bag from him. But I'm not going to give too many of my cards away just yet because, again, that is a whole nother category that I want to jump into later in the show. To kind number 1, appreciate you jumping on tonight. Obviously love our conversations as usual. The only same saving the Flames is JT Miller and Pettersson aren't getting along. Very true. Of course, the Canucks, I think, are just 1 point ahead of the Flames in the wild card race. And, you talk about a struggling team and a conflicted team in the Flames. The Canucks have it way worse with the whole JT Miller, Pettersson, whole kind of Vancouver Canucks debacle that's going down. So, I mean, it could be worse in a sense. But yes, they're kind of keeping the Flames' playoff chances afloat for now. But, who knows what the scene is going to look like come February, March, and, of course, April, when the grind to make the playoffs for these two teams are really going to hit hard. So before we kind of jump in tonight's to the main body of tonight's show, obviously just going to plug with pride our show Hyperdrive Hockey. Shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all of the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max Van Hoot, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Laramie every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. Head to our website, thegameovernetwork.com, for more. Now, kicking off the first segment of tonight's show, I try and stay positive through the start of these shows because, as we all know, there are games just like tonight where I would say negatives outweigh the positives. And I feel like most of this season, a consistent positive that is being talked about not only on this show but across the fan base is the young guns in the likes of Dustin Wolf, Matthew Coronado, Connor Zary, Jacob Pelche. Want to shed light on just two of these guys again tonight. I probably sound like a broken record, and by the end of the season, the way things are going, you're going to get real sick and tired of me talking about these young guys. But I wanted to kind of piggyback off something I saw on Sportsnet today while I was watching the show, and it's just how dynamite Dustin Wolf has been at home, and it was one of the storylines I was kind of looking into as we headed into tonight's game. I was excited to see what he would be able to do, considering that heading into tonight, obviously the record is different now, but heading into tonight's game against the Nashville Predators, Wolf is 10-1-1 this season at the Dome. Of course, now he is 10-2-1, but still, heading into tonight, that is the best record among all National League goaltenders in home records. And I mean, it's not like we haven't been giving Dustin Wolf his flowers all season long, but just you talk about him being in contention for, the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year, and this is just one more argument as to whether he is quite arguably maybe a dark horse in there. Obviously, there are more favorites in the Celebrinis or the Mishkovs or you name it, but still, I feel like through this season, and as we head into the award kind of nominations part of the season, he is going to be that dark horse where it's like, hey, if he continues to put up the numbers that we're seeing, he will 100% be in contention. Heading in tonight, he was at a sub 2 goals against average. He's at 1.97 and a save percentage of .937. This is coming from a rookie, first time kind of really playing in this league, and he's putting up these numbers at home. And again, the Flames have shown to be they've been a very good home team through most of the season. Again, tonight isn't probably one of the nights we want to be preaching about how good they were at home, but it's not like Wolf has this stellar defensive core in front of him that is helping him get these stats. He is one of these goalies in the league. I mean, you can look at I was going to say the Vasilevskis of the world, but he's arguably struggling, as we all know. But you look at the top goaltenders in the league that are leading the team in stats, more often than not, they are backstopping what's a relatively good team across the board, and especially defensively. And the Flames aren't one of these teams, and Wolf is still putting stats up like this. And I mean, I don't think tonight was obviously it wasn't his best game that we've seen him in a Flames jersey, and it probably wasn't in the top half of games we saw from him, but he's just been kind of that Mr. Consistent all season, and at times he's kind of had these sparks of brilliance, and I wouldn't say sparks, but we've seen them quite consistently, and the nights that he kind of maybe isn't on his game as much, or isn't your Calder type, having a Calder type performance, he's still been relatively consistent. I don't think I can count times on my single hand here where he's been the main reason the Flames have dropped a game. I don't even think I could name one off the top of my head. I'm sure if I put some thought into it, there might be a few, but that coming from a guy that, again, is in his early 20s and is getting just barely scratched the surface of what the National Hockey League is, has just been absolutely fantastic. And as I said, I don't think tonight was the best game, but I wouldn't say any goals were really like completely on him. I would say there were bigger problems with blown coverage defensively that kind of put him in a tough spot to make a difficult save that maybe some nights he would be able to kind of come up big for the Flames, and tonight they kind of snuck past him. But I don't think there was anything that was glaringly where you just point your finger and be like, that's on you, Dustin. And I don't think there's been very many occasions this season that we've seen that. And which is great for the Flames. It's great for the future of the Flames. Obviously, it's tough to see from a season to season and how a guy like this develops. But from what we've seen, and again, I think I've said this on past streams before, but what we've seen from Wolf, both in the Western Hockey League with Everett or in the AHL with the Wranglers, every season he gets stronger and stronger until he's proving he's the best. And the way he started this year, he's proving that he has the trajectory to be a top 5 goaltender across the entire National Hockey League. I'm just checking in the chat here. Carter Burnson, with Wolf playing so well and Dan playing poorer, why do you think the Flames continue to roll out a 1A, 1B type of system with no consecutive starts for Wolf? That's a great question. I think, obviously, with a young guy, like, I would say we've seen issues in the past where we've kind of put so much pressure on a goaltender to play, 60 plus starts in a single season is a concern as he gets kind of worn out, he gets kind of broken, and he develops these long-term injuries that take a lot of time to rehab and that kind of stuff. So I think if we're talking about more of like a maintenance and keeping up to shape and all that kind of stuff, not saying he's out of shape, but I think there's an argument to kind of keep him healthy in that sense. And obviously it's his first year in the league. We don't want to like completely ruin the guy by throwing 60 plus starts at him. And I think at the same time, for such a young goaltender that still, as good as he's playing, like every young player in this league, he needs to mature, he needs to learn, he needs to grow. And you could make the argument that I don't know if 60 plus games a season, 50 plus games a season thrown to a guy like Dustin in his rookie season is super beneficial for him. There's time for him to kind of get his rest. The way things are going for the Flames and the way things are going for Dustin is I don't think there's going to be a universe in where Dustin spends his career as a 1A, 1B guy. So first year right off the hop, I think there's a benefit to not, throwing so much pressure onto him and giving him so many starts, if that makes sense. And again, it's not like the Flames are like 100% all in for a playoff push this year where we need our best goaltender every single night. Of course, they're doing good enough to be in the hunt for a wild card spot, but is that really like, of course, if they make the playoffs, they're not going to be disappointed about it, but I don't think the Flames are going to change anything from a management perspective to really make a push to make a deep run where you would need a guy like Wolf to kind of play consistently to rack up the points as well. So I think there's a whole bunch of factors that go into kind of giving him the split starts with a guy like Vladar. Obviously, Vladar isn't putting up the same kind of numbers from Wolf. So if you look statistically, there is just a very strong argument that just keep putting Wolf in net, keep riding with him. But I think there's definitely some argument that could be made about just kind of preserving his kind of his game and not making him too worn out in his first season alone, if that makes sense. Drago plays. I think Dustin Wolf's goaltending is a reason for optimism. The size or style he plays with isn't the problem. The Flames have defended poorly at times in front of him and make too many mistakes. Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. I think if you can pinpoint one specific bright spot or the best kind of part we've seen this season is that Dustin Wolf can play in the NHL. I know there was arguments in the past where it's like, is he really going to make it with kind of his size, his stature and stuff? There's obviously a huge argument in a guy that was taken so late in the draft, obviously, as well. And he's just shown this year that he can play. And as I said, I don't think I can count with the fingers on one singular hand about games that he hasn't played good this year. And he's played in 10, I think that was his 12th starts this season. So kudos to him as well. Conrad, Cooley can take the Vladar starts. I agree. I think I don't want to get into it because it's going to be the same show over and over. But I think there is going to be a world where we see Vladar kind of find an exit out of the Flames organization via trade, or that's what I hope to see. And of course, I'm more than happy at giving Vladar the starts giving Cooley the starts that Vladar would have gotten in the second half of the season. Now that's enough talk for Dustin Wolf. I'm not going to stay too much on this topic, but I wasn't going to talk about him at first. But I mean, it's kind of hard not to talk about a guy like Matthew Coronado, registered in his first career fight tonight. Again, talking about the young guns specifically, I really liked his game. I think he's got this kind of, he's got a shot that not very many guys on the roster kind of have, and we saw that in the second period where he rung the post, and if it was just a couple inches to the right, that's going posting in, and he's celebrating his 10th goal of the season. I think he's had a fantastic start to his season. I think he's really found his stride with that line, with, I believe it's Coleman and Backlund as well. And then, of course, tonight, I don't know, I don't think there was a single Flame fan, along with the team themselves, that were absolutely fired up to see him come to the aid of his captain, who took kind of a bit of a dirty cross check in the corner, and he stepped up and fought a veteran guy. I don't know if you would call him not a fighter, but a veteran guy and a veteran presence in Jonathan Marchessault. So you can make the argument. I would give the fight 50-50. I'll give Coronado a little bit of slack because it's his first kind of bout in the, or probably his first ever bout, period. But that, something like that has to get you fired up. You see the young guy sticking up for your teammate. He's not a guy that is, super chippy and that kind of stuff that is going to be a regular fighter. But, to see him go to bat for his teammate, and especially his captain, just gets, I'm sure, got the entire bench fired up. And you saw Ryan Lomberg swing by and give him a fist pump on in the penalty box. So I'm sure that definitely was nice for Coronado to get, knowing he kind of did a good thing as well. And yeah, Conrad in the chat again, Matty C is playing hungry. You love to see it. Absolutely. As I said, I feel like across the board, all of these young guys have had such a fantastic first half of the season, and I'm excited to see them kind of develop as the season progresses as well too. Now, I think this is probably the perfect time to kind of segue into the second portion of tonight's show. Again, I tried to start a little bit positive, but we are going to kind of fall off a little bit, maybe hit the negatives a little bit. Before we do, I just wanted to share that the Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. And obviously that hasn't started yet, but we're super excited to kick that off sometime in the new year as well. And of course, getting grants for the Game Over Network and being able to employ more people means more content from the site, and who doesn't love that? I know I'm absolutely stoked about it, and the rest of the team is too. So, of course, if you want to send some love our ways, crowdfunding options are a perfect way to help support us. And, of course, if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see in terms of maybe giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, our Discord server, and, of course, Blue Sky as well. Now, segueing into the second portion of tonight's show, as I said, we started positive, and we're kind of going to go a little bit off the rails here. One of the biggest things tonight that I think bit the Flames and have bit the Flames in the past, again, it's not a new topic on the show, is just a poor ability to garner any kind of high danger scoring chances. And I think this one, of course, bit the Flames in the butt. I mean, if you just look across the entire sample size of this season, there's been 2 or 3 consistent points that have let the Flames drop games that they shouldn't be dropping like this. Again, as I said right away, their inability to develop high danger scoring chances and develop to, oh my goodness, I just lost my train of thought. Their ability to develop high danger scoring chances that lead to goals, obviously, and their just willingness to play perimeter hockey has been one, and of course special teams has been another, and their defensive liabilities at times have been another. But tonight, at least for me, what I saw was just very, very, very broad play around the perimeter. There was little to no kind of commitment to driving that net, to kind of crashing the net. The thing with the Flames is, as I said, again, in past streams, we don't have that kind of A-list superstar that can kind of put a team on his back, control a power play, control offensive zone possession, like a McDavid or a Draisaitl, or, you name it, a McKinnon, a Crosby, an Ovi, those kind of guys that them alone can kind of put the Flames on their back, or put their team on the back, and create these high danger scoring chances. And instead, the Flames are, to be blunt, a bunch of B-listers that are trying to find a way to find the back of the net. And what they've kind of, their safety blanket, or what I've seen lately, is these perimeter shots where, of course, I mean, you can't put on a Flames game and within 5 minutes of it, you can hear the Saddle Dome yelling at these guys to shoot the puck. And you have to, all I've been seeing lately are these just ridiculous, perimeter shots, swing it up to the point, even on the power play. I mean, the power play is a completely different conversation to be had that I, again, don't know if I necessarily want to get into tonight. But it feels like every kind of scoring chance the Flames have, when it comes to when they possess the puck in the offensive zone, not kind of breaking in, but possessing the puck offensively, is swing it up to the point, try and find an outlet on the slot where they can do some sort of one-timer and hope somebody gets a deflection or hope it's quick enough to sneak past the goaltender and stuff. And as I said, with these guys being a bunch of B-list players, you're only going to score from these perimeters so many times. You're only going to get a stick on it or a deflection on it so many times. And what these guys need to do is they need to get deep in the paint. They got to get gritty. They got to get dirty. They got to just jam home, get these dirty goals. I know Conrad is in the chat, and we both know my perspective on how Huberdeau will never score a nice goal again. Obviously, he did a couple games ago, but what I thought he had been doing really good in terms of offensive production is he's that guy in the paint that is finding all these crazy rebounds and putting the puck in the net, and a lot of his goals have come like that this season, but it's kind of non-existent from game to game. Like, there's no pressure to put pressure on the defensive team, have them collapse around their goal. And as I said, that's kind of, if you ask me, that's kind of the success the Flames need to target. And I think that's why a guy like Pospisil finds success on Huberdeau and Kadri's line. Again, they were quiet tonight, but as of late and through December, I thought they were really good with that. I think the Flames are pretty good when it comes chances off the rush. I feel like that's where Huberdeau and Kadri kind of shine. We saw it in the first period. Kadri almost got a pretty nice cross-ice feed from Huberdeau, and it was maybe a couple inches away from sneaking between the 5-hole of, I believe it's Justice Annunen, if I pronounce his name right. I could be wrong, but it's just like, it's painful to watch the Flames set up in the offensive zone, because it's like, okay, they're either going to score off a one-timer that they get a lucky feed from and the goalie's late coming over, or it's some sort of deflection. There's nobody going to be driving the net. There's not going to be any net from scrambles, and that means the Flames also need to win battles in the corner, win battles out front, and they just have proven they're not a good team doing that. So it's like, it's just driving me crazy to see like the scoring issues have been here all season long. How many times have they scored 3 or less goals this season? It's been, 80-85% of the time. But then there's been little to no change in how they want to go about, creating a presence in the offensive zone. Carter Burnson, again, watching the young guys play so well. Do you imagine the Flames are sellers to allow some call-ups to play or in a playoff position? Do you buy and grab someone? Sorry, I probably shouldn't have read the chat as I'm kind of on a roll now, but as I did lose my train of thought, I will answer that question, Carter. With watching the young guys play, I've been kind of in the corner of selling assets wherever you can. I know I've said Vladar is a great target. I personally think Rasmus Andersson is a great target for a team looking for maybe a middle pairing kind of defenseman looking to make a push. Kadri's definitely been talked about. I like the core we have, but I also want to be greedy in the sense that I want to build off what we already have. As much as I love a guy like Connor Zary or Matthew Coronado, while I think they're both very good candidates to be top 6 forwards on this team and a lot of teams across the league, we still don't have that star player kind of leading the forward group, and I think we may have that in a guy like Zane Parekh on the defensive end of sides. So I'm optimistic in that sense, but in terms of forwards, like I don't think Sam Honzek is going to be that guy. I could be eating my words, but I don't think Sam Honzek's that guy. I think the closest we have to kind of that offensive catalyst is a guy like Connor Zary, but again, I from what we've seen so far, as good as he's been, he's not, like, he hasn't been the same kind of pedigree as the guys that we've seen come past. If that makes sense. So I think the Flames are going to be sellers regardless of where they end up. I think even it would be foolish to me if they do find themselves in an opportunity to make a push in the playoffs and sneak in as a wild card team. I don't think it would help the Flames in the long run to sell off, whether it's prospects or assets, for roster guys to kind of help them make the push. I think that would be poor management, and it's more so if you can maybe add a younger body that you can confirm that he's going to stick around with the team. I think I'm optimistic in that sense, and I'm open to that. But at the same time, a younger body in that forward core that you hope to keep around for long term is also going to have a high price tag to it. So I think the Flames should kind of be of the position of being sellers, and if the perfect opportunity presents itself to again add a young body, I think you could maybe open that kind of conversation. But besides that, I'm kind of leaning on that sell side of the spectrum. Conrad, so Back said in his scrum that the special teams let them down. Is that as close to a condemnation of Kuzmenko as we'll see from within the locker room? All right. I guess this is the moment that everybody's kind of waiting for. You kind of mentioned that, and I think that is a good segue in terms of the inability to produce scoring chances. I mean, a guy like Kuzmenko, who at one point was seen as a pretty good goal scorer in this league, or at least in the first few years in Vancouver, and even following the trade last season, he kind of showed that he can put the puck in the net with the Flames. I think this is the great time to kind of segue into my biggest talking point tonight, and I'm sure everybody's biggest talking point tonight is Andrei Kuzmenko. But before I do that, I just wanted to share that Game Over Calgary does, or Game Over Network as a whole, has merch, and there's no better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing. So Game Over's apparel line has dropped, as I'm sure all of you already know, and we have 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or you want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our Live and Die by the Goalie design, or if you want a cup of coffee with our coffee mugs to keep you warm throughout the winter, as well as some toques that I am hoping to get in the mail pretty quick here as well. We have you covered, and designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. You can use the QR code, which I'm pulling up right now, to take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Now, while this QR code is up, I will go ahead and start kind of period 3 of tonight's show. And of course, it is the guy called Andrei Kuzmenko. Today was the first game since December 29th that we saw him slot back into the lineup. He's been a healthy scratch. Heading into tonight, he was a healthy scratch for 7 out of the 8 last games. So that means he's played 2 of the last 9 as the period sounds. And I know this might take some people by surprise, and this is kind of why I was waiting for this segment, so I can be slandered and then go to bed and maybe cry myself to sleep a little bit. But I don't know about anybody else, but I think the first period of tonight's game, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he had energy. I thought he had a little bit of charisma to him. I thought he was playing with he was playing with something in mind, playing with something to win, and obviously that is like to prove that he can play on this team and kind of be some sort of catalyst offensively and keep the guys going. I thought he was playing with a lot of energy. I really liked his game in the first. He had some chances. I think you make an argument an early whistle from the refs. I can't remember exactly when in the first period, but an early whistle by the refs kind of maybe even took away a goal for him, and I think he did ring the post at some point as well too. I saw that, and I kind of had some sort of like optimism to it. I'm like, okay, maybe maybe he is back. Maybe he's kind of had his time in the press box, and he's thought about it, he's angry about it, and he's ready to prove a point that he can play. And I don't know if I've seen I don't know how I would call it. I don't know if I've ever seen, I wouldn't call it a meltdown, a collapse. I don't know if I've seen a collapse as catastrophic as what we saw from Andrei Kuzmenko today. And honestly, like, my chest kind of hurts for the guy. Like, the way he came out in the first period, it's like he came out with something to prove. He came out with, I'm angry at the way I've been playing. I want to prove that I deserve to be a consistent mainstay on this roster. I want to prove that I can help this team win. And through the first period, I'm like, this is a side of him I haven't seen for most of the season. I'm like, maybe he's just kind of been snake bitten. I haven't seen him play in 9 games. Maybe he's just been snake bitten. Maybe this is just an example of like him kind of maybe been misunderstood for portions of the season, And I went into the first intermission. I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, I think I have a talking point for tonight's show, and it's like I think I'm really impressed with his game. And then he collapsed, and I'm not really one to just like I'm not that type of guy that's going to point a finger and be like, that game is on you. That game is, you are the specific reason why the Flames lost. And I don't want to throw that blame totally on his shoulders. But the Predators went 2 for 2 on the power play today, and both penalties came from Andrei Kuzmenko. And I think that slash, I don't know. I'm conflicted about that. I think part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. I thought it was a bit of a light slash on him, but at the same time, stick got up in the hands, lost the puck. Sure, that's a slash. Okay, you know what? I'm like, he was battling for the puck. Again, I'm trying to defend him a little bit here, and I don't know if I'm doing a very good job for it. But sure, they get the slash, they get the power play goal, whatever. Like, let's kind of come out a little bit stronger. You know, get one back. That mentality is like, okay, I made a mistake. I screwed up. Let's get that one back. And what did he do? I put my head in my hands when I saw him. For those of you who didn't watch the game or didn't really maybe missed what happened, this is the one where it just hurt me to like see this guy struggling. The scoring opportunity, he's kind of at the point, fires a puck, stick snaps, and he doesn't let go of the stick and then plays the puck with his feet. And like, that is a textbook penalty. And that is something that these guys have grown up playing. You break your stick, drop it immediately. I don't know what is going through his mind to be like, I'm going to skate around with half a broken stick in my hand and then argue about why I got a penalty when I touched the puck with a illegal equipment. It's just like, that one is just so mind-boggling as to why he just doesn't drop the stick. So I'm like, okay, you know what? And of course they score on the power play. So it's like, okay, the Flames are now down 2-0 against the second worst team in the league, and both goals have come off Andrei Kuzmenko penalties, which quite honestly could have been avoided on his part. So it's like, okay, great. I'm like, he had a great first. Second hasn't looked that great, but it's like maybe he can bounce back in the third. And then, of course, because I am trying to be an optimist in that sense, I thought he would have much of a third. Of course, you take 2 harebrained penalties like that, your coach in the National Hockey League, your coach in minor hockey is going to sit you. And that's exactly what happened. Missed time in the third and just really didn't find his stride after that. So it's a story of, I kind of feel bad for him because, like, you could see in that first period that he came out with a point to prove. And then it just that second just was so demoralizing for him. You could see him sit in both the penalty box and on the bench when he was sat by the man or the coaching staff, where it's like I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back, in the sense that he finally draws back in, starts great, and it just collapses. And, is a prime reason the Flames dropped tonight's game. I won't put the entire blame on his shoulders, but it was a pretty sizable reason for the loss. So it's just, you want to kind of give the guy the benefit of the doubt, and then he does something like this, and it's just so crushing for both me watching him play and for him himself. I'm sure this is a game that he's going to go home and he's going to lose a lot of sleep about it. And obviously you don't want that for anybody. But it's also kind of hard to defend him in that sense. And Conrad, Circle K Classic AAA players know that. I mean, everybody who's played hockey before knows that. So it's just, that one it scratched my head. I was just so taken aback by what he did in that sense. And now I'm going through the chat as well, because Drago Plays said a few comments about Kuzmenko that I wanted to chat about during the time to chat about it, of course. And so now's the time. Andrei Kuzmenko is a complete bust, and it isn't funny anymore. He's constantly looking for non-existent perfect shots, plus those 2 straight penalties he took tonight were just atrocious. He doesn't deserve another contract with the Flames and should be scratched the rest of the season. The Flames will be lucky if they can get a 7th round pick for him, plain and simple. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. Maybe a little you cut straight to the point, and 100% like what we've seen from him this season is just it's bit the Flames across the board. But this kind of fanciness that we're seeing from him is not needed. His play has just been super lackluster, and you say the Flames will be lucky if they can get a 7th round pick for him. I don't think that's going to be. I think there's going to come a point, and I think we may have seen it right now, in the sense that I wouldn't be surprised to potentially see a mutual contract termination, some sort of buyout or something, where it's just like, hey man, like, this isn't working. We're not going to be able to trade you for anything. We're probably going to have to lose assets to get you off this team. We're going to just kind of mutually part ways, and you're going to have a nice life back in Russia, where he kind of cut his teeth originally and stuff. And obviously, it hurts. He's showed a lot of potential in past seasons, and he has scored goals to quite a high extent. And it's just, I mean, I think this is the reason why Vancouver was quite open to dealing him last year, and it's something that, as I definitely didn't notice because I didn't watch Vancouver that much. But it's just it's one where I don't see an outcome this season where I see him either being traded for any kind of assets or being a consistent mainstay on the team. I think the game in Vegas was a kind of prove me game, and I thought tonight was a really prove me game, and I think he missed the mark on both of them. Again, I want to give him credit for that first period. I was quite impressed with it, but I mean, this is the National Hockey League. This isn't some minor league game where if you have a bad game, you're still going to see 20 minutes the next night. This isn't. The Flames right now are 1 point out of a playoff spot, and there's no point in consistently trying to let you get reps in so you can figure it out. Like, unfortunately, like, you can't figure it out. This is kind of time to cut ties, if that makes sense. Carter Burnson, again, he's a tough case, but I think he fits the age they want, and I believe he's going to get better, but you've got to let him play. Hey, you know what? Like, I appreciate that kind of perspective, Like, I hope you're right. I think in his prime, when he's played his best, I think he can be a very valuable contributor. I just think what we've seen from him this season and where the Flames are this season, I don't know if there's much more the Flames can do. And again, like, I don't know if he's necessarily, the Flames are open to having him just kind of work out the kinks and just consistently playing him even though nothing's going on, where you can play other guys in his position and they might have more success. So I appreciate the optimism. Obviously, I kind of share a similar sentiment in the sense that I feel bad for the guy. Like, you could see tonight he really wanted to prove a point and he fell short of it, but it's a business, right? So you also, like, there's only so many tries you can give a guy like that until you do have to make some sort of big change. Conrad, in the chat, as we discussed in private, we need to waive Barry to sit more than one forward. I completely agree. I was going to kind of add to that because I thought that was a good conversation that we had in private. But the Flames have, I believe it's kind of 8 rotating defensemen on the roster. Tonight, both Barry and DeMille Miramanov were scratches, barring any injuries. I 100% agree. Like, send Barry down to the minors. Sit Kuzmenko. I know you also mentioned Sharangovich. I don't disagree with that sentiment either. But I think if the opportunity presents itself to bring up another forward that can play in lieu of Kuzmenko, I'm all for it. And there are a few names that I even kind of did a little bit of digging, and I thought I could be somebody I want to see on this roster. 3 guys in particular. One we've already seen this season, I believe. That's Adam Klapka. And as going back into the conversation that we had earlier this year, earlier in today's show, the Flames struggle at driving the net, at making kind of chaos in front of the net, getting those greasy, dirty goals that they're capable of, that they should be taking advantage of. And a guy like Klapka is a perfect example for that. He is just this towering giant that parks in front of the net, makes life a living hell for defensemen and goalies, crushes guys. Put him in front of the net. I honestly, at this point, like, our power play is so atrocious. Put him on power play 1, put him in front of the net, keep doing your perimeter crap that you keep doing, these point shots, these trying to get tips, and just let him sit there and hack and whack. The guy might score 30 if he does that with this team. So I think he's kind of up there for somebody I would like to see have another kind of go with the Flames. Another one that we haven't seen but is having quite a pretty good season as a winger with the Wranglers is Stromgren, 25 points through 32 games. I know he's been kind of somebody that we've been talking, or the Wranglers have been talking about, and he's been quite consistent with them. I don't know too much about his game, but I mean, at this point, I'm open to bringing up anybody to see if anybody can kind of stick with the Flames roster. And of course, Dryden Hunt, 29 points in 31 games, and he does have a little bit of NHL experience with him. I think those three guys, you can bring either one or any of the three up in replace of Kuzmenko, and I'd be more than happy to give them a go. I mean, the thing is, you take a guy like Kuzmenko out, and you're not really missing much offensively, right? So you let these guys play a couple stints each, see which one kind of has a better performance, and you know what? Kuzmenko's in Russia. You're now going to be an on and off guy on the roster. And as I said, I think Klapka proved that he could play. I think he plays the game well at this pace. He's, again, a little slow, a little lumbering for a guy like that stature. But still, I think his dynamic is something that I would be open to seeing. And I think, even him on a grindery line with like a Lomberg too, I think would be really interesting to see. So that is kind of my Andrei Kuzmenko debacle of just a tire fire of a game, just a whole roller coaster of emotions. Again, I feel for the guy. He clearly showed tonight he wants to play. It's something maybe we haven't seen lately, but he came out again with a little bit of fire in his belly, and it just kind of caved in on him, and you could kind of just see his energy and stuff just drain out of him in the box and stuff. And again, I mean, you can't really go to bat with him because, the Preds were 2 for 2 on the power play tonight, with both times him in the box, and both times were plays that could have been avoided. And then the rest of the game, he was either sitting or just wasn't playing with much enthusiasm because he kind of knew that he was, wearing one for that one, right? So, I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see where the Flames go from this. I'd be surprised to see him back in the lineup in the Flames. I believe they're playing the Ducks on the 7th on Tuesday, which is their next game. I'd be surprised to see him in the room, maybe the room, but I'd be surprised to see him on the ice. I think he's going to be having a couple handfuls of popcorn up in the press box at least, and I think there's just the time is just ticking down as to how long he'll be a member of the Flames. So, I mean, I think if there's a team out there that want to take a flyer on him, who knows? But at this point, you might as well just wait for the Flames to try and terminate his contract and maybe sign some sort of a deal and not have to lose assets too, because that is probably a pretty an option that other clubs would be looking at, if there are clubs looking at that. Now, this is kind of the segment of the show where we'd kind of open it up to discussions with everybody kind of tuning in tonight. Of course, we've already been having some pretty lively conversations, but if you do have any more questions on tonight's game as a whole, about the Flames just in general, or just life itself, I'm happy to chat about whatever. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. And as we do, of course, I just wanted to say that if you love this stuff that Conrad, Anand, and myself are doing on Game Over Calgary, just know that the exact same stuff is happening in markets all across Canada. All 7 Canadian markets have Game Over Network shows as well. So maybe if you have a different affiliation for a different team that isn't the Flames and you want to check them out, if you're a Winnipeg fan or an Edmonton fan or you name it, we have markets in all 7 Canadian cities. And of course, they're doing stuff, post-game shows just like us every night. And everybody in the Game Over Network is such an amazing community, and they're doing some awesome stuff. So of course, while we appreciate all your love and support, if you want to share some love to the other shows as well, feel free to do that as well. Conrad, Kuzmenko saying he only learned the stick rule tonight to bike. Okay, I mean, I know bull when I can smell bull a mile away on that one. I mean, he's kind of just, I would say he's saving face. Unless maybe in Russia they don't have that rule. I'm not very up to date with the rules and regulations in the KHL, but Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily believe that, and that's maybe something where he's saving face. But either way, I feel like if I know that, and I never played any kind of high level hockey, and I knew that when I was a kid, uh, there's a good chance that he also knows that. And I'm sure he maybe even came into like at some point in his career, a rule like that happened to somebody else too. Like, so I don't know if I believe that, Conrad. Carter, are the Jets the best team in the NHL in your personal opinion? Oh, good question. I think they're having a really good year. I mean, I think there's the argument to be said that I think they're one of the best ones right now. I think I think when it comes to playoffs, they proved that they're maybe not the best, but they've shown that they're a very good regular season team for years and stuff, and this is no different. But I mean, hey, you know what? The whiteout in Winnipeg is something that is quite fun. Maybe one day I'll take a trip down, but who knows? I don't think they're a team that'll have 15 regulation losses on the season. I think it'll be a little bit more, but you never know. I think their goalie tandem, Conrad's in as well, says the same thing. I think Connor Hellebuck's one of the best goaltenders in the league, if not the best. I think this year he is. But there are some holes, as Conrad said, in the roster. I think we've seen it before. Like they've never been completely smooth sailing, but I think right now they're one of the hotter teams in the league. I'm curious to see if maybe they'll cool off in the second half of the season and stuff. But I mean they're a pretty good team. I mean, unpopular opinion, but I think Minnesota's also up there. I like their game. I think their forward core is the best. I think in the future, like a goal or a defensive, like a top pairing between Zeev Buium and Brock Faber is going to be pretty deadly as well. So I really like Minnesota. I mean, I hate that to say it, but I think Edmonton is obviously in contention as well. They're kind of doing the thing where they are kind of crappy at the start of the season and kind of I don't know if they've been as good or they've had as good of a trajectory as they did last year, but they're always kind of in the conversation as well. So I would say they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now, but I think come playoff time might be a different conversation. Carter, I hope I did not offend you, but that's kind of where I stand. Let's go one more question here because it is getting late and it's already past my bedtime. So is it time to discuss moving Rasmus if the wheels continue to fall off? Hey, I've been on the move Rasmus train for quite a while now. I think he would find a great home for a contending team, kind of a middle pairing kind of defender. I mean, that fourth goal, Nashville's fourth goal, was a complete whiff of a one-timer on yet another perimeter shot from him. I feel like each year you kind of make the argument that he's a bit of a defensive liability, and it was kind of all fun and happy when he was finding the back of the net every night and doing a stare down, but it feels like it's been a couple of months since I've seen a vintage Rasmus Andersson stare down, and at the same time he continues to be a defensive liability. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, I think if his name comes up in trade conversations, if I'm Craig Conroy, I'm listening to every single one. Obviously you got to move him for the right price and stuff. And I think for a team desperate enough, you could probably get a little bit of a haul from him. But I'm not going to lose sleep if he finds a home elsewhere, as long as we get enough value back in return. So that's where I kind of sit on it. I think I've shared a similar sentiment as before. But I think a guy like Mackenzie Weegar just plays way more of a complete game. I'm not saying he's the greatest defensive defenseman or offensive defenseman of all time. I think he's really solid. I mean, if you ask me, I think he's a really good two-way defenseman. I think he plays both sides of the puck really well, and I think he just plays the position better than Andersson as a whole. So if you're looking for a guy like that, I think I'm completely open to that. The right price being Petey. Okay, I don't know if that. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to say no to it. I don't think the Canucks staff is going to say yes to it, but I mean, have crazier things been done? Probably. Who knows? Absolutely 100% trade him immediately. Sure. I like that. I like that mentality, Carter. I will maybe stick around for a minute or two, and if no more questions come in, I think I'll shut things down and call it a night. But the Flames again dropped tonight's game 4-1 against the Preds. Their record is now 18-14-7 on the season, and they sit fifth in the Pacific in just 1 point out of the wild card, or the second wild card spot, and of course that's currently held by the Vancouver Canucks. We fleeced the Nucks last year. Very true. So you know what? Maybe it is more. Maybe a trade like that is maybe more realistic than I think it is, which is a concern for Canucks fans. But either way, Flames are back in action, as I said, Tuesday, January 7th, when they visit the Anaheim Ducks. I think it's the first time this season where they are playing each other. Conrad, again, are one of our fantastic Game Over Calgary hosts, both myself and Anand and Conrad. But Conrad is going to be the host for that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read the calendar right. But either way, he is going to have the post-game show for you on Tuesday. Tune in for that. Of course, appreciate everybody's support through the first half of the season. We're only getting started. I've been loving every minute of this. I hope everybody else has been too. So I hope to see you all back tuned in on Tuesday. And as the regular season progresses and the Flames kind of get closer to maybe finding a spot in the playoffs, it'll be a fun, exciting second half. So I hope to see you all there. And until then, I wish you guys all the best. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And again, Conrad, we'll see you guys on Tuesday night.